Father, do you want to start us with the opening prayer?
Sure. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
This is a reading from the book of Acts. Peter said, "If we are being examined today about a good deed done to a cripple, by what means he was saved, then all of you and all the people of Israel should know that it was in the name of Jesus Christ, the Nazarene, whom you crucified, whom God raised from the dead. In his name, this man stands before you healed. He is the stone rejected by you, the builders, which has become the cornerstone. There is no salvation through anyone else, nor is there any other name under heaven given to the human race by which we are saved." So that's our reason for living. That's our reason for being, is that we are saved by the Father through the Son, and that's why we have our church. And tonight we're going to talk about the building, but the building is not the church. However, the building serves a function, and the function is to house the community and to offer shelter for us as we gather for prayer and for worship. So, and the necessary experience of being together, being there with each other is a very important reality for us as the Catholic community in Strasbourg. So we're talking tonight about that reality, about the need for us to not be a slave to the building, but rather have the building serve us well. So it would always be a mistake if we were overly concerned about the building and not the mission. However, we as a pastoral council, as a finance council, are concerned with the mission of the parish, with the mission of the church, and we need to use the facility to further that mission. So we will talk a little bit about the facility tonight, but we have to keep that in perspective. The perspective, of course, is what we believe God calls us to do and how he calls us to live together. And so it's not the most important thing, but it is certainly important as we gather together as a church. So with that in mind, let's ask God to be with us in our meeting and to help us in our discussion. And let's pray as Jesus taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So, Marianne, I turn it over to you or to Rick. I don't know who's next.
I think we're going to just turn it over to Rick.
Great. So, Marianne, is everyone's aware of what I'm here for today?
Yes, we're going to talk about the capital campaign. Yes.
Very good. If at any point I start to get gibberish because of this internet connection, let me know. I'll flip back to the phone, but it's just much easier for me on a computer. Hey, good evening, everybody, and thank you for letting me join you for the first part of this meeting.
Excuse me for 1 second. Can everybody mute and then unmute when you have a question?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So guys, I'm going to give you a super accelerated brief version. I'm trying to keep this down to 10, 15 minutes of what we had a meeting for in the last month or so. And I'm going to talk to you about a very specific capital need and a capital campaign we have going on. And Marianne will actually even show you some very important and really exciting images in a little bit of a plan that we have. But I want to do this in a couple sections. And the first is to acknowledge, the history of where we are as a church. And we are, in our diocese, we're not a very old church. We're recently built in the last, 75 years. And as I said at our last meeting, many people in our parish actually remember when the Barrett Center was actually a gas station that are in our parish today. And Before I talk about what we need to do to the church, I do want to acknowledge that we're very fortunate that we have a church that's in good shape. And we are not one of the parishes in our diocese who's going through a conversation of saying, if we don't do this, we will, we won't be able to sustain this church or whatever. We've had a really great parish family support for our church over the entire 70 years that it's been there. And that includes renovations of the main church just not that many, 30 years ago or so. And then, of course, the addition of the Barrett Center, which I believe could have been as recently as 84 or so. And then, of course, the Dreby Center, and most importantly, collecting that piece of land in the back to add that as an asset to the church. I got originally involved with the Parish Pastoral Council many years, about 7, 8, 10 years, 10 years ago or so, when there was an early conversation pre-COVID about some safety issues with the church related to the front steps. And at that point, we were thinking about doing a renovation to the back, what is now we call the back of the church, and adding basically a new entrance to the back of the church. And it was going to have an elevator that went all the way to the basement into the second floor, and a much more beautiful glass foyer and legal and appropriate compliant handicap accessible ramp. And of course, at the time, something that was even coming up back then, safe and appropriate access to the church for a casket so people weren't carrying them down the front steps. That got side railed for a couple of things. The number one thing that got side railed for, we got some beautiful drawings done, but that was looking $2.5–3 million. And we knew that our church parish family didn't have the appetite for such an investment in the church at that time. Moving forward, we had that thing that happened in 2020, which kind of delayed all projects everywhere, COVID for a few years. And then we started talking about this in the last few years again. Since Father Quinnen has been here, and and even during the time when Father Perry was here, he cared about the church very much, obviously, and made renovations and put the kitchen counter we have downstairs in the Barrett Center, in the Jack Center and such, and necessary work was going on. But after Father Quinnen got here, we started looking at a more aggressive approach to restoring and building back the church to the level it needs to be for our responsibility as a generation of churchgoers to have it ready for the next 20, 30 years or so. And during this time, we started doing some of the most important structural things. We started dealing with some water issues with access to the buildings. And we recognized, as many of us will remember, there was maybe an unflattering report on the state of our church from the diocese at one point after a visit by the bishop that was a little less than flattering about the state of our church in terms of its carpet and the walls and the condition and such. So we moved quickly and we did the responsible things. And I'm here this is good news. We did the responsible things. We didn't throw a coat of paint on the inside of the church. We put a brand new roof on the church. Full new roof, and repaired all the wood structure underneath it, all brand new snowbirds, put new gutters on, got that completely cleaned up. And at the same time, even put a new roof on the Barrett Center. And then, and only then after that, did we start preparing to do the work on the inside of the church, which is very important, the repainting, the new carpet, the new significantly removing all that wallpaper and doing the beautiful paint work that's in there, and cleaning up and refinishing all the pews and all of those things. Those types of events. And also during that time, we also remember we did the front steps. I'll talk about the front steps separately in a minute, but largely those events. Now, there was one joint capital request at one weekly, I think it was our weekly friend or visitor meeting where we did collect a little bit of money for the renovations. But a lot of those renovations, things like the organ that we have that we're so blessed to have, and the Dreby Center, and some of the other major renovations in the church, are largely a couple different families just came in and said, look, we'll just pay for it and we'll do it. And that's great. And we are so fortunate and blessed and grateful to those families that did those things. And really, it got us in a pretty solid spot. I think you might all remember the last significant change we did to the structure of the church was the front steps. And that was after, literally those capstones were starting to fall off. And I just want to be being realistic about where we are. We have an aging demographic in that church right now, and asking people in their 70s or so, and I say this politely because I'm an inch away from that age myself, to be carrying caskets up and down those old front steps was simply, it was not acceptable is what it reached. So we did the design of changing the front steps. At that time, we were being fully aware of the long-term needs of emergency egress and access and stuff to the church, but there was no practical pattern because of our proximity to Main Street to address all the needs at one way. We can't do a 200-foot long ramp on Main Street for access to the front of the church. So we softened the grade, approached the angles so they weren't aimed right onto Main Street, approved the landings, moved to at grade access egress from the church. Really important liability insurance-based and zoning-based needs for the safety of the church. And I think they turned out more than reasonable for a limited, because we would also say that our front steps, as important as they are to the church, are kind of limited access. We don't have a lot of people getting dropped off at the front door to go in the front steps, but they're still very important to us in creating a much safer environment for those people who are engaged in moving of caskets and stuff during funerals and a few other times where we need bulk access to the church. While this was going on, there was a group of people who were still very concerned about access and egress to the church. And this has to do with access, and this evolved into access in many different ways. One of the first parts of this that came up, well, the second part that came up was our elevator on the side at the bank entrance, it's just, to be honest, it has been served us well. They are not 100-year units when you buy a closet elevator. They're simply not. Technology has massively increased in them, though, and we do have to look at the practical nature of access and egress, as it were, in an emergency, getting people out of the basement. And that elevator's not really going to suit our needs. And while we have escaped critical judgment because of being grandfathered in, we do have a responsibility as a church community to provide a safe and reasonable way for people to get in and out of the Jack Center as well. Going back to the thorn that's always been in my side, kind of, and the thing I was always complaining about was the access for caskets. And I don't have some morbid attachment to caskets. I drove by one time during a funeral and I saw a group of people walking down the front steps, and I said, this is just nothing good is going to happen here. So Marianne will show in a little bit. We decided to come up with a plan. We were so fortunate that so much work has been done on the church, and we haven't really tapped the entire church community very much for these things. So we come up with a plan to address the last several concerns of accessibility. And as you get more literature and more information on this Accessing the Future campaign, this goes into many other things that I'm not going to take your time on today. But like Father Quinnan did when he got here, giving access to people to be able to join the liturgy with the monitors inside the church. And, we'd like to upgrade. There's better software options and such to make that more viable. As much as I was an absolute opponent of this in Father Quinnan's early days, I was very opposed to the monitors. Now I don't even know if we have missals anymore. I use the monitors. I like the monitors. And this is the real world. And this is the way people can see and participate much better. Another interesting one was we were fortunate enough to be gifted that organ, and that organ was bought with great foresight. That organ is prepared to be able to deliver automated music for Mass at wonderful levels of control remotely, or by someone sitting at the organ who's not really a musician, but more has awareness of timing and turning things on and off. And we don't need a new organ for this to keep music in all the liturgies. We just need to upgrade this, look at the software and look at buying the extra packages. This is not a $100,000 item. This is a $15,000, $20,000 entire program. In terms of accessing also for the general population, I would like to suggest that we have room for improvement in the general way that we hear who is ever at the lectern at Mass. We have a hard time getting everyone to lean in appropriately to the microphone, and that's fine. There are technologies now that address this issue, and we want to spread the sound evenly through the church without it being disruptive. But, those are important parts of accessing the liturgy. But what I really want to talk about is the structural parts. And as Father Quinnan said, while the church is not about the building, it's about the community inside of it. We really are looking at this as a chance to put our church in a spot where we can say, hey, our generation, this group right now, has done our part to get this church ready for the next 20 to 30 years without significant investment, because so much has already been done. Primary parts of this will be access to the Jack Center and access in and out of the church for all accessibility devices, including caskets. Access to the Jack Center includes, as we mentioned, the elevator on the bank side, but also the steps on the other side. And many of you have been involved in the church and used to participate in the block party. And you know that the liability risk that we endured every year from our aging population dragging trays of food up and down those stairs it's not good, not a good look for us. And we know that in the winter, those steps are challenging is the word I would like to use to avoid implication that we're not being responsible, but challenging at very, very best. The width, the lack of light, the riser height, and all of these things really need to be addressed. And then the access to getting wheelchairs and even walkers in a more safe and pleasant way in and out of the church, and bulk events for caskets and larger things that have to come in and out of the church. Interestingly, just so you know, the population of the world has changed, and caskets are even different than they were 30 years ago. Now you have large, extra large, and there are double extra large caskets to accommodate the needs of the world today. And they're a little bit longer and notably wider, and require different space to safely move in and out of the church. And I might say, just to among us, that if the caskets are getting wider and longer for those events, they're also getting harder to carry for the demographic who's carrying them, and we need to address this. So we came up with a plan, came up with a couple sketches. Mary Ann and the team that was part of the finance council and parish pastoral council. There's a facilities committee that put a lot of work into this and came up with several different variations. So we come up with a beautiful, extraordinarily, I think I'm telling you, extraordinarily practical way of addressing all these issues. And in short, what we're looking at is adding a ramp to the side of the church that's between the Barrett Center and the church, but basically starts at the current entrance and goes to the back parking lot. You'll see this in a minute. And also significantly upgrading the stairs to the Barrett Center there by hitting it in 2 phases with a landing, much wider landing down, better lighting, better access, railings, the whole thing, and providing much, much better access to the church for everyone on that important entrance side of the church, because that has become the de facto primary entrance of the church. And we would like to kind of guide this to be the primary entrance. We're also looking at a minor modification to the Barrett Center to improve the accessibility there. And that would be changing to add not a new real entrance, but adding a wider ADA compliant door to the back of the Barrett Center, and just bumping that one little office space back there, so that where all our handicap spots, you have ADA accessibility to the Barrett Center. You're 20 feet away from the start of the ramp to be taken up into the church with landings. It's not, please don't visualize a ski slope here. There's nothing like that going on. It's been designed ramp, landing, ramp, landing, ramp, landing, really beautifully designed with the appropriate railings and everything. And I want to get to the important part of this. This is not a $2 million event we're talking about. We believe that this entire project and all the aspects that Mary Ann will have information coming out shortly to share with you, this whole thing can be done in the $600,000 to $700,000 range, which is extraordinarily reasonable. We want to target a campaign of about $1 million, just so we have a little bit of money left over to address any other issues. There's some things we'd like to do to address accessibility of the staircases inside the Barrett Center, and that they're not immediate emergency needs, but we would like to have access to do a couple of improvements. Also, we need to get a roof on the rectory. We've done patches on it twice, and it's time. It's just time. It's time to address that important, and I don't mean to be cold, but that important asset of the church community. It might be where Father Quinn lives, but it's an asset of the church, and it must be protected as such. So we need to get the roof fixed on there. And so what we're proposing here is a plan to raise at one time, we're target $1 million, but around $600,000-$700,000. When Father Quinnan asked me, I am not a fundraiser. This is the first time I participated in a fundraising thing. I'll write a check and run away. That's about my involvement normally. But when Father Quinnan asked me, I was very much in favor of doing this, because what I'd like to do is make this short and painless. This does not need to be drawn out into a year-long or multi-year or even a year-long thing. We're not asking for that much money here. But what we're asking for is for everyone to accept the opportunity to participate in doing this last step up to improve accessibility, safety, and compliance and legal compliance to the church. A really beautiful, important part of this will be the addition of what we're calling a collection garden, reflection garden, the area between, I'm sorry, Mary Ann, I'm sorry, I forgot the word. You can tell us in a bit what the correct name is. The area between the Barrett Center and the church. That is still technically, legally, on paper, a road. It's a paper road. It's actually a blacktop road, but legally, that's a road. And it's beyond comprehension that we ask our families to drop our kids off and send them into that building in the middle of a road that's squeezed between the road and the church. So we want to just bump off and close that road out front and improve that area. We're thinking about beautiful, a couple benches. We're even leaning towards a nice fountain for 9 months of the year in there, a beautiful area to reflect. This would be a great area for people to collect in the event of non-inclement weather, funerals, weddings, other events at the church, a safe, very safe place for kids to congregate before and after a religious instruction or other events going on at the Barrett Center, and a really, really important part of connecting those two individual assets into a beautiful interconnected space by this the tied-in area. And obviously, we'll clean up the overhead archway that connects the two of them just to beautify that, but to keep it safe and to get that closed down. And that will also then provide us the extra couple of feet, 3-4 feet we need of width to get the appropriate size ramp and staircases we need to access the church from that side. So, right, to get to the point of this, we did what we called a silent leadership part of this campaign at a brief meeting last month. And now this is our internal church leadership portion of this. I think it's going to be very important when we go to the parish community, and I will gladly go to the parish community and go to every Mass to speak to this. I think it's really important that we accept this as an opportunity for everyone in the parish to participate in this and to have ownership in this, to have real ownership in this. And to, when they see this ramp, to say, yes, I participate in this. When they're standing in this garden, that they say, yes, I participated in this. And that they feel that they have ownership for it and toward it. When this is done, I really believe that we have done all the structural things. I can't, without, aside maybe some church that was recently built that I'm not aware of, I believe that we might have a church that's in better physical condition and better prepared to enter the next couple of decades than almost any of the other 95 in the parish or in the diocese, which puts us in a very good spot and keeps us from having to deal with ongoing capital campaigns. We started our silent or leadership version down in the Barrett Center, and we made them walk down the steps. We did, because that's a good way to indicate the need. And you know, thank God nobody needed to use the elevator to launch this little thing. And pardon my bluntness, but here's the approach I'm taking on this. We're asking that group to, which included some of the people who have been primarily the legacy givers to do the major renovations of the church, to consider participating quickly. What we're looking at here is trying to get this done in the full collection must be done in 2 years. There's a couple of targets, and Marianne will give us details later, but I think around $400,000 or $500,000 we're going to be comfortable launching into contract. The other part of this is we'd love to get this done, the dream plan, and it's slightly aggressive. The dream plan is for this to be done next Christmas. And I know it's a lot, but we'd like to get this done and over with and off the books, as it were, and ready to move forward. We asked that group much more aggressively to consider participating in this at certain levels. And the response was surprising, immediate, I would say, immediate. The response, people were responding well. And what we're asking for is, most importantly, is that everyone on that's part of the church leadership, parish council, finance committee, and such, that we are participating. Participating is the most important thing. Forgive my rudeness or boldness of asking, but I'm suggesting that we all consider this. $100 a week on this is a $10,000 gift over 2 years. We're gladly willing to take these payments over 2 years. Even the $50 a week at $5,000, a $5,000 pledge for 2 years is just $50 a week. And we're asking for people to consider giving at these levels. Certain members of all of our church community, even those on parish pastoral council and the finance committee, simply, I understand, do not have the means to do this. There's no issue with that whatsoever. What is important is we do something. $10 a week would give us, that's $1,000. That's $1,000 pledge, if you'd be willing to consider that. But first thing, I want to go backwards and say, if this is something that compels you to be very engaged and more engaged, look, we have a couple of, I think we have maybe at least $100,000 option. That is for naming the ramp, which will be a significant expense. We have another substantial gift for naming the garden, the reflection garden between the church and the Barrett Center, but there are also other small dollar naming opportunities. So go down as little as $5,000 and $10,000. So you can remember a loved one to tie to the commitment itself to get this done. So we started last month, and the first phase went well. This is phase 2. After you guys were going public, but it's really important to us. It's really important to us on the committee, and I'm going to say by the committee, I mean mostly Marianne. Marianne does about 95% of the work for this, and I come in and attend a Zoom call for a couple seconds. The important thing is that we get this done quickly, and that we move forward, and that we use this as an opportunity to encourage everyone to participate. It's going to be difficult to encourage everyone to participate if we don't have church leadership participating. It's really important. It's really important that we give meaningfully. I do not. This is not my business what you give. My business is asking you to please be thoughtful in this. We have been blessed by previous generations who, first of all, paid to build the church. Then they paid back in '91 to expand the church massively, and then we got the Barrett Center, and we got the people paid to help build the. We got the Dreby Center and help pay the Barrett Center, and all those little incidences of life that in the middle that father or previous pastors of the church have been able to just go make a phone call and say, hey, could you flip us this 50 grand for this or that? People have stepped up and done. So we are not sitting here like some aging parishes looking for $2 million. We're sitting here as a vibrant and strong parish with a very good leadership team, and we're asking for $750,000, hoping to stretch it to $1 million by engaging everyone in the entire parish to get this done. And then when we're done, when you pull in from the Pula Funeral Home side, to have a beautifully marked handicap area, which is part of our world going forward. And if you look at our demographic, will grow, not decrease, but to also be able to have all the entrances for that portion of the population readily available from that parking area, and then the elevator from the other side of the church. There's a lot of minor things in here, getting rid of that garage, finishing paving, and all kinds of other really important things to finish up the story. But we're not here to spend an hour of your time. I'm here to very specifically and very, very directly ask each of you to consider, and I'm forgive me, and I am available to all of you anytime. I'll be back from China on the 13th, or I can Zoom or talk to you before then. Marianne can give anyone my phone number who wants it, if you have any questions about what the thinking is here. But I'd really like everyone to think about a baseline of $5,000 on this, and those who have the capacity, 10s and 25s, will be more than appreciated. We don't have a huge community of people who will be able to give on the larger end. So we would very, very much like those people who do have that capacity to consider this your legacy generational gift to get the church building up to the level it needs to be, not just for liability and insurance, but for safety and for our responsibility to the church community that we're serving. I'm going to skip the other history parts of this and that, because any of you you all know this. So I think the next best thing is, Marianne, if you could you show us just a quick couple of images of what it is we're talking about, even just the primary section of the ramp and landing. Sure. and the garden there. Thank you, Marianne.
Yeah, the courtyard. Yeah.
Courtyard. I'm sorry.
That was awesome, Rick. Thank you so much. And I do want to put a plug in here. Deb has helped a lot with this, so I know that Rick says I'm
so sorry.
Committee of one. We're a committee of two now. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to go back up to the top here. Okay. So I don't know, Rick, if you want to talk to this.
Yeah, basically, you can see there the double rail at the base and then single rail all the way up top. So what you have there is we have a different issue I don't know how long we will stay grandfathered. Public buildings that are not meeting current ADA standards are subject to legitimate scrutiny, whether you're a church or a bank. It doesn't really matter anymore. And our accessibility is, let's say it's lacking, notably lacking. But this is the appropriate pitched level for what it takes to get a ramp for safe access even for wheelchairs. This ramp, just so you know, is designed to go up and around and will fit the largest manufactured casket on the market today at the radius to be able to turn it to get it down the ramp without embarrassing anyone, without stumbling, and to make it free moving. This also gets our hearses off Main Street and out of the bank and out of the area between the the Barrett and the church, which is really not a good look and not a good safety approach to doing this. So this allows, as you see, a much better place to stage the necessary funeral vehicles to make this safer at that very critical time when people are not maybe as focused on traffic patterns as they are, mourning a loved one, to be able to do it in a parking lot instead of on Main Street. So this is the ramp up from this side, and you see a third of the way up there, the first landing on it. What is the next picture, Marianne?
Yeah, so I just want to make two comments. If you notice,
Yeah.
so now there is no road anymore, right? The road has been closed in, and then you'll see another picture that gives you what the other side looks like. We also, I don't know what these are called, but these stops so that people don't try to go forward like they're used to doing because there is a road there. So that's to prevent anybody from accidentally going forward. The next one is the stairs down to the Jack Center. And this is I have a hand-drawn one and then a mechanical one, and the mechanical one's easier to see. So I'm going to do that one, because it gives you a better view of the stairs. Not only is there the ramp from the one side, but you'll still have the stairs if you wish to walk up the stairs to get in, as well as Rick mentioned earlier, you're walking down, platform down, then going into the Jack Center. So that it's more open, there it'll be well lit, and it has the right pitch, so it's not narrow, right? It's not narrow either way, right? So the risers are the right height, and the width of the steps are correct. The next is, so I wanted to make a disclaimer that these are all still in the conceptual phase. So honestly, this picture isn't the same picture that we handed out to the people that got the first round of packages, right? So they keep evolving, but we're pretty close to finalizing things. I just want you to know you might see pictures that are conceptual, because we're still in that phase. The next one is an example of a courtyard. We have two examples of what the courtyard would look like. Most of this will be pavers. We probably won't have as much green space as this one depicts. Of course, it doesn't show any of our side, our windows or anything, any of the offices, because again, it's an image. If we were the fountain, we envision the fountain going here. And then the next picture is another version of what the courtyard could look like. And right now we don't have any images of the access to the Barrett Center, because we're just working on that. The other images I have in here are two things. One is in the packet that you do get. So you'll get a case in your packet, you'll get a case for support, which has all these images in it, as well as a description and the history that Rick was talking about, as well as the needs. And then there's a commitment card for everybody. On that commitment card, it kind of shows you how you might be able to budget it. So you could easily see what it would take if you were trying to do something in a year, or if you were trying to do it in 2 years. Also on the back side of the commitment card, and I modified it briefly, Rick, until we are able to figure out the mechanics of splitting up naming opportunities. Anyway, so these are all the naming opportunities that we have available, and we do have portions of these available. I just need to figure out the mechanics. We already have the fountain fully accounted for. But here's all the things that Rick was talking about. The upgraded lift, there's upgrades to the Barrett Center, there's upgrades to the parking lot, there's upgrades to the rectory, and audio and visual upgrades. Oh, and then this is just our accessing the future capital campaign prayer when we're ready to say our prayer. So what?
So Marianne, if I could interrupt just for a second and say, man, if there's any questions that trains here don't wait, and I have to get out to a morning train to head south into China. And so if there's any questions, and I'm absolutely available to all of you by email. None of you are, you're all welcome to have my phone number if you want to call, text, or whatever it is. If there's any direct questions,
I have
But
one
if there's
question,
any-
Rick.
Yes, sir.
Is there ever, would there ever be the possibility in the future where we would lose access to the driveway on the bank side?
My quick answer to that, this is just the worst thing in the world to say at this time, is I sure hope so, because one day I hope we own that bank. And we own that entire parking lot, and that we would control the access and egress from the far side of the bank and make it a much better flow through. Then we get a traffic engineer and get a three-way, back on, I'm sorry, I don't know, is that Sarah behind you? I don't know what street that is behind.
I think Sarah Street, yeah.
Monroe.
Yeah. Monroe, and then 9th Street, and then Main Street. You could have then we could really look at a beautiful, we don't own that parking lot. We're using the good graces of our neighbor for that. But I mean, I would love to see that closed down and then literally put an overhang between the two. That bank should really be our after church social gathering center. It's a very small building. It's just got a big overhang on it. So yeah, I would, but right now, no, the bank has no plans on getting rid of that building, and that is legally a road. It's very interesting. The one between the
Really
Barrett
good.
Center and the church doesn't even show up right now on current Google Maps and such. But it's still legally there, so we still have to go through the issue of getting rid of it.
What if they sell it?
Okay.
And then one other comment I want to make, and I know Rick needs to go, is I know he's mentioned that we are moving into the public phase, but we're doing one more round of this on the 16th. And this is for, we're still in the private phase, and all that means is we're not publicly talking about this. We need to get to 50% of our goal before we publicly announce. And we're not at that yet. So we're doing one more round of what I'll call leadership engagement. And these are people that are influencers and are apt to help us in this endeavor. So I just want to add that. And the only other thing I want to add is, if anybody's interested in being on the Capital Campaign Committee, we are having a committee meeting on the 16th. So please let me know and ask me any questions. I have access to Rick a little bit easier than other people. So feel free to send questions to, if you want to send something to Rick, send it to him, copy me, and we'll make sure it gets answered.
One more item, guys, just, in terms of everyone participating, we have already got really our first and most immediate response was a member of the Polish community, and we'll be asking the Polish community to engage in this. And we are, and Father Quinnen has been proactively working towards doing things to help indicate our commitment to acknowledging the Polish community inside the church. And, they have naming opportunities just like everyone else would outside the church. So the request is going, it's not just like, hey, we're coming to you 20 people and saying, hey, would you cover this? No, we're going to everyone and saying, let's all share in ownership of this, and let's all do it together. And the response has been really positive so far, and we're very, very grateful. So please, this is no stone unturned. It's a different world. We don't have parishioners who are going to wander in and just throw $1 million down anymore. That's not going to happen. So we need to get together and do our part, and it will include every group will be asked. So please, this is not targeted just to you.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate you
Yep.
spending your tomorrow morning with us.
Yes, Rick. Thank you very much. I know it was a sacrifice to be here. I appreciate it.
It was my pleasure to be here. It's great to see all of you, and it's my pleasure to participate in this and get this done. And I think we can all just be so proud when it's done. We can all breathe so much easier. Very few of us cannot understand the need to fix that access to the Jack Center. That's just not right. And the ramp is just something we need. So we're not asking for artwork. We're asking for things that, I hate to say it, I'm looking at the screen. These are things that impact us all in the next 25 years. So, so we need to be aware of this. Thank you guys so much.
So I will stay on. If anybody has any questions or wants to talk about anything else, I'll stay on until everybody leaves, just so we can capture anything. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Do we think in the future that there will be a need for an elevator?
There may be a need for an elevator, but we have looked at elevators 4 times in my involvement in this, and each time it gets more and more and more expensive. So I don't know that we would have the appetite to spend $500,000 on an elevator. If we have a new lift that can fit 3 people in it instead of 1 that goes twice as fast.
So this project includes a new lift.
But
a
yeah,
new,
Oh, okay.
an
replacing,
upgraded
replacing
lift.
what we have,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I
And
missed that.
upgrading.
Yeah, because we can't change the footprint, but we can
Yeah.
put a new one with new technology, right? I mean, this one's, I want to say 15 to 20 years old.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, I missed that part. Okay, no, that's good. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Good questions. If you guys have questions, other people will, so feel free to, might not be able to answer it, but at least we'll get them down.
I have a
If you
question.
want to stay on for a minute, I do want to bring up another question, but let's finish this first.
Okay,
I have
Kathy?
a question. Yeah, so
Sure.
it might be too early, but what's like from Main Street to the Barrett, what's gonna separate that? That just makes, like right now we have the road, like where the
Yeah, it's-
courtyard's gonna be. What's
Yeah,
gonna
that's where the
what's
courtyard's
gonna
gonna be.
protect, but what's gonna protect anybody from coming in, driving?
So there will be a curb, right? So it'll
Okay.
be, now it'll look just like it's a sidewalk with a curb. It won't look like you could drive in.
Okay, that's just my concern
And
because
the way the engineers, and I just found this out, right? Because we were doing the walkthrough last week.
Mhm.
Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to answer your question. But anyway, the way they design it is to like funnel you in as if you're walking, but then from the street, it looks like it's all part of the sidewalk.
perfect. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other thought, I mean, what do people
Mary,
think
I
about
had
this?
I had a question. On the other side, it looks like the ramp extends out into the parking lot. Is that going to interfere at all with that entrance from to the parking lot on that side of the road, like on what is it? What street is that by the church? The other
Ninth
church,
Street.
Ninth.
9th and Main.
Yeah.
No. Okay,
that,
so I'm gonna pull
that
up.
entrance will
I
still
want to
be-
make sure I'm looking, I want to make sure I'm speaking to what you're talking about. So I'm going to pull up the image because I'm having a hard time visualizing what you're saying.
first image that you showed.
Yeah. Okay. So it ends right here. So it's kind of like in the middle of where that first parking spot is. That would be behind the church.
Okay, so the entrance from the side of the funeral home on 9th Street won't be affected by
No.
this.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other comments, thoughts, questions? So you will, like I said, you will get a packet that has all this information in it, but it is evolving. So if you got a packet before, it's probably not the same packet I'm sending out now. If you're comparing
One
them.
last question, if I can.
Absolutely.
I remember before, and I think Rick mentioned it, that we had talked about the entrance being right from that back wall. So that's not feasible?
$3 million.
3 million.
Fernando, what I think we thought is that it causes a lot of construction that needs to be done, a lot of movement of windows and of structure and of building, and it's very expensive to do all this. This is minimal what we're doing.
Okay.
It's not interfering with the structure of the church. We don't need to move walls. We don't need to move windows. It's a very simple, clean design that solves a problem without making a major mess of the building. It's economical but functional.
Understood.